Good morning once again. If you're tuning in, this is Good Morning Kenya, and this morning we're going to be focusing on the youth. It is said out here that the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, but questions are abound if we cannot tackle issues that are hampering the youth from exercising or rather attaining their maximum potential, then how can they lead in the future? So we want to tackle these issues that are curtailing the youth potential in as far as the Kenyan youth is concerned, given that in a population of around 45 million, the majority who are the youth are still unemployed despite government's intervention to empower the youth. This morning, I'm joined by a youth mentor and career coach, that is Pauline Warui, and the CEO of the Vision 2030, Mr. Edward Githaiga. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, when you talk about the youth, people say that who fits in the demographic of being youth. But we all know where we all lie. Anyone from above 18 all the way to around 30, 35?
35. Yeah.
That is considered the youth. And we've seen like around 60% of the unemployed is made up of the youth.
Yes.
Now, let me start with Vision 2030.
Okay.
And one of its flagship kind of projects to impact on the youth is the issue of the launch of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. This was supposed to provide a line of credit to the youth so that they can be financially stable.
Yes.
There have been critics who have said that this fund has not met its obligations, or rather its objective, since its launch. What's your take?
Thank you very much. On onset, I would like to set the record straight. I'm nowhere associated with Vision 2030. That's the Kenya Vision 2030 project. We are called Vision 2030 Youth Entrepreneurs Association. We're young entrepreneurs who came together to find the solutions for the youth, not waiting for government and other people to help us, but to help ourselves. However, I have to mention on that issue, the Vision 2030 was a vision of Kenya. And envisioned in it was the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. And we want to thank the former president, Mwai Kibaki, for seeing it wise to start up the Enterprise Development Fund. And this fund was supposed to come and hold on to the young people and provide them with a line of credit, as you've mentioned. And indeed, it has had various challenges like corruption, loss of funds, misuse of money. Even right now, we have cases in court where hundreds of millions have been lost through that fund. So indeed, it hasn't helped people, because if you're talking about losing hundreds of millions, not hundreds of millions have gone to the youth. However, I do not want to say that youth have not benefited from that. What is happening currently is that there is a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of duplication of these roles. For example, on the basic level, for a young person to access credit at Youth Enterprise Development Fund, which is now defunct for your information, it's now known as the Biashara Fund, where the government has combined the Women's Fund, the Wezo Fund, and the Youth Fund together so that they can have those target groups looked after together. And I don't know how that will work, but we hope it will, as a new thing. Instead of having the old Youth Fund, which has the scandals, which people don't have faith in, we hope this Biashara Fund will give a new life of credit to young people.
Now, but you've already mentioned something, yes, in the rebranding and bringing this target groups. That's the women,
yes,
and the children, and the youth, and also the disabled,
yes,
persons
yes,
with disabilities.
Yes.
Under this whole one umbrella. From where, allow me to just say that you sound as if you're not so sure if this if this was the way to go.
Yes.
Or how do you think how would they have done it better to ensure that the youth actually benefit? You've already said that the Youth Enterprise Development Fund did not meet its objective, because one thing that you've mentioned is mismanagement, corruption,
yes,
and we have cases, court cases pending.
Yes.
But now here we have rebranded to something and that has roped in the women and other functions. From where you sit?
From where I sit, one thing that makes me feel doubtful about it is that they will recycle the same people. If we can have a pure overhaul of this institution and employ young people, give young people opportunities, because we have young people who work in banks, we have young people of integrity who are in industry, we have young people who are in agriculture. Let's remove this bureaucracy, this aging civil servants who are curtailing the youth. Let's remove them, because believe me or not, even Jesus said, you cannot use old skin on new wine.
Aha.
Right?
No, we're just from Easter. We understand him. Now, Madam Pauline Warui, something has come up here is that it's a high time that we gave leadership, or rather, the youth to have leadership positions, especially where they're supposed to take care of themselves. What's your take? From your point, you deal with the youth, you're a mentor, and you're a career coach. Is this the direction that we need to take so that the youth can actually benefit from such projects?
Well, I would say to some extent, yes. We cannot simply say now youth take over. There must be a mentorship program. There must be a way to graduate the youth to be able to carry out their duties. Have we done well as our generation? I don't think so. We are riddled with corruption. We have not created institutional frameworks that really help the youth to actually transition so that from generation to generation, we are able to pass the experience that we have. And that is why we are talking about mentorship, because I would speak for myself. My youthful journey coming now to be a mentor, I would say the things that challenged me when I left campus are still the things that are challenging the youth. And once you identify that, then you have the heart and ear to listen to the youth, to actually understand where they're coming from. And no two generations are the same. And no two generations will ever agree on matters leadership, on matters how to do things. But how do we make the youth more accountable? One, it starts from the home. We have looked at it from a government perspective, we have looked at it from an education perspective, but even from a parent's perspective, are we mentoring these children, the young ones, to actually take up leadership?
Edward, Pauline there has brought up an issue, the lack of mentors in society. You've come up as a group of entrepreneurs who are trying to think outside the box, not just relying on government to make things right. Are you lacking mentors? For the right, are you lacking mentors from where it is? Is it the lack of mentorship?
Let me tell you something. The worst thing that happens and affects this society in Kenya is politics. Politics is what we are fed every day in the media. Ruto said this, Raila said this. And that becomes the kind of perception that young people look up to those politicians as mentors. I believe we have mentors. Like she's a mentor. But I've met her today. They are all over, but the mentors need to rise up and stand up to save this generation. Because if the only mentors that we have are politicians and corrupt people, I mean, where do you think we're going? Remember the survey that was done? They said that young people would actually participate in corruption, right? Because the mentors, and there's a saying that goes, show me the leaders that your youth believe in today, and I will tell you the future of your country. So therefore, where are we going as a country?
So matters politics. Yes. That is what we're focusing on, and we're not creating an avenue to have mentors come on board and talk to our youth. Yes. Now, when you talk about mentorship, there's the issue of life expectations. The youth have been referred to as millennials. Youth are face-down people. They do not have even interpersonal communication among themselves. With the recent increased cases of gender-based violence, especially in our universities, questions are abound. Are we talking? Are we communicating? Pauline, are we communicating with our young adults?
Well, I'll say one of the things that comes to mind is that our value system is broken. We have created a generation that wants everything instantly because we have shown them we must get rich quickly. We have shown them success is not about hard work, it's not about integrity, it's about shortcuts. That is where we have made the society get broken. Are we doing it as a whole? Yes. The sad thing is that we come back, yet we are the ones who taught them, and we are now showing them and creating the youth as an institution. We have separated them and put them aside, yet no society can operate on its own. We need the youth, they need us. They need our experience, we need their energy. So how do we match this is the question that we're talking about today. And one is sitting and us being the older generation, really coming up and listening to understand the youth. What do they want? What are they seeing? Because they'll see further than us, no matter how much. We want to talk about proverbs of we see further when we are seated. Really, when you look at technology, when you look at the platforms that are enablers for youth success, they'll see further than us. How then do we come in and enable them by creating the right frameworks for them to operate?
Now, Edward,
Yes.
Pauline, from where she sits,
Yeah.
she said, visions to the future are
Yeah.
different. Older generation will see things differently. Are the youth ready to listen, to talk, and chart the way forward? Because we've had so much that these people, even in the work setup, these are the people who want instant gratification, who do not have the patience to work and put in the hard work. Is that so? Or are we changing the dynamics?
Okay, not necessarily. You see, in psychology, there's something they call nature and nurture. On the nurture side, who bought the TV in the house? Who bought the phone for the son? It's the parent. And why did they do that? Because they didn't want to take enough time to look and discuss what issues are you going through. So they got the house girl or the house help to raise up the kid, the TV with DSTV to raise up the kid. Then what do you expect? A young mind is developing, and anything as nature now comes in, anything it takes in is what it becomes, you know. However, like for us, Vision 2030 as young people, we've gone a step further. We advocate. For example, we've gone internationally. We've advocated for youth to get in positions and participation in the WTO. In 2015, we produced a position paper that was accepted by the WTO. In 2016, United Nations Conference for Trade and Development, also we participated and presented a position paper for youth. In AGRAF, that's Agricultural Green Revolution for Africa, we presented a position. We've participated. We want to be mentors out there. However, when you have so many unemployed youth, so many underlying issues facing these young people, they need an escape route. You know, and
escape route. Before we get to
an occupation, a job is an occupation whereby you take time out of the world to organize yourself. So if you have no occupation, what else will you do?
Good question. Now, before we answer that question, you've mentioned something, and if I may just look at what the Vision 2030 focuses on, other than just the youth, under the Vision 2030, there's the affirmative action policy that requires that the youth are represented at least by 30% in governance, in politics, across board. It hasn't been actualized, or has it? Madam Pauline.
No, it has not been actualized for sure. Reason being, we are not listening to the youth. We don't trust the youth that they can actually be able to come up with ideas that are concrete, that actually have their own good, which is, we come from even an education system that really gives us, feeds us information. Do as I tell you. And that is the kind of leadership that we have also taken up to say, you are young, listen to me. You cannot talk when your elders are talking. But today the dynamics have changed. And that is why for some of us we've come back to actually see where are we going wrong? What is causing this rift? And the reason it will not be achieved and be achieved soon is because we have to change the mindset towards the youth and their capabilities.
Change of mindset. Change of mindset. Is it the height? Are we ready to change our mindset? And as you answer that question, Edward, there's been talk that our education sector is actually our tertiary institutions, that they're churning out half-baked graduates. We've talked about unemployment, in that they are not marketable in the job market, in that they cannot do what the market demands. And we've seen government has put in place and now wants to do an overhaul of the education system. That is futuristic. But what do we do now in the present, in the short term? What do we do to ensure that the youth get the jobs that are out here? Edward.
Good. One thing I believe is that for anybody to attain anything in their life, they have to know themselves. And the reasons why you're saying that we are churning out half-baked graduates is because half of those graduates don't know who they are in actual sense. Like their self-confidence, their self-esteem, their personal development, their personal growth. All they've been focused on has been the academic, and they forgot about themselves. However, young people are now at a stage of desperation. Right now, young people don't have jobs. Right now, young people don't have opportunities. Believe me, if you set opportunities there now for young people, they will go and run for them and grab them as fast as possible. Because in the end of the day, we're not living in Disney World. We're living in Kenya. It's a real world. You have to pay rent, you have to eat, you have to transport. There's expenses. And there's no way you're going to live in this country if you don't have money. So what we're trying to say is that we need the government of Kenya, private sector, everybody, like Ma'am has said. We need to come together and think this thing holistically. So that we are able to now develop people who are coming out there to change Kenya and bring in patriotism, right? You know, let's build the Kenya we want.
Okay, so self-actualization and opportunities, that's what the youth is saying. They need to first to be assisted to self-actualize. You know, you have to look inward, and someone who's looking out in can better tell you who you are or where you're failing at. So self-actualization. Now, they're saying the opportunities, the Big Four agenda. The government has really come out and said that there are opportunities there within for the youth to actually participate in. Where are these opportunities? How do we prepare for them as a youth?
Well, one of the things that I can talk about when I look at the Big Four agenda, good ideas, brilliant ideas, well put policy documents, well done. But when you look at it, it is not a net-to-end process. And I'll just use one example. Let's look at manufacturing. Strategically, what are we manufacturing? What you get? When we say we are going now and putting everybody, and manufacturing should be our key thing, are we going to be cheaper? Are we going to have better quality products than any other country that is competing against us? You see, when I talk about the institutional frameworks not being in place before we put the right agenda, we are talking about putting a net-to-end product that you're saying we are going to be the best producer of maybe dresses or clothes, okay? Compete with fashion designers. The creativity of the youth is there. They're ready to work. We can train them how to do the best designs. Then from there is where we come and map them into this manufacturing, a whole process that you're talking. But then again, look at it. Today, even though we were to do that, where are we going to sell our product? The government needs to facilitate the markets. Let us deal with the process backwards, but really the market must be there. That notwithstanding, the youth also need to come up with that believability that I can do it. That today, with Wi-Fi all over, with a lot of exposure, you can actually compete on the global stage if you believe in yourself. That is what I mentor and coach.
Thinking outside the box.
Yes.
Changing our mindset.
Yes.
Now, we've already talked about unemployment, but we're shifting away from just focusing on white-collar jobs. We are preaching and focusing on entrepreneurship. We know that that is the direction that we'd want to take. Is the environment conducive for the youth to become entrepreneurs?
Indeed, the environment is conducive because, as you can see, it's so easy. You go to e-Citizen, you register a company, a business thing. It's conducive. However, I want to just...
when I say, is it conducive?
Conducive.
There are other factors that come in place. Yes, you've registered a business, but you need capital.
Yes.
Is capital accessible?
Yes.
You need to have a bankable idea for you to get that particular capital. And when you get the capital to start your business, do you have your market? That is the kind of environment that I'm asking. Is it enabling enough for the youth to come on board? Or are there loopholes that we need to tighten up?
Going back to the point just for a minute there about the Big Four agenda, the housing, the agriculture, you say food security, health, and what else? Manufacturing. When we start with manufacturing, I want to support my sister here. I'm like thinking, hold on, just go to the port there, you see how many things we're importing from China, right? As basic as a toothpick. I mean, the government is talking about manufacturing, and yet we are killing the manufacturing industry. Nothing less than that. However, what I believe I would do if I had the opportunity to advise the president is have industries, cottage industries. That's what we need in manufacturing, and value addition centers, so that we first start from the ground. Because now we have the bidcos and we have the big corporate companies doing manufacturing, which is capitalist. However, the manufacturing, I believe, before he's talking about, is the one for the ground, so that it can have an effect on the person on the ground. And then here it is now. If there is a youth out there who's interested in manufacturing, whatever it may be it tissue paper, be it chalks for the board, be it anything, they can then go, right, apply, right, at the Micro Small Enterprise Authority, who have a fund for this manufacturing. And they can then get that fund and be able to practice that. However, the manufacturing that the civil servants are thinking about is not what the president is thinking about. President is thinking micro and small, while they are thinking big. That's why you see Akina Rotich quickly to bring the French companies in here, Peugeot, they're quickly to bring.
That is them. But now I'm asking you from a point of view. You've said you've come together as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
You are working at, changing the dynamics,
Yes.
getting the youth to come on board.
Yes.
What I'm asking is the environment. Is it enabling enough for you to do your business? Madam here has said we need to have a plan from execution.
Yes.
I mean, from inception to execution.
Indeed.
Ready product to the market. Where are the challenges they're in?
Okay, this is a third world country. Yeah, you cannot have a conducive environment. Even for people who are not youth, they're still struggling. However, like what we have done, we've set the pace. We've acquired 500 acres through a deal we've made with the landowner. And in that land, we're going to do what is called mixed farming. We're going to do poultry, we're going to do fish, we're going to do livestock, we're going to do crop and everything. But the good thing about what we're going to do is that we will not sell anything raw. We will process everything. And we've invited these big companies to come and help set up or produce a fund, a pool of fund to set up these value addition centers, so that we can then manufacture cheese and sell it internationally or even locally. So we as young people have to think outside the box.
And you've already identified
Yes.
agriculture
Yes.
and the value chain,
Yes.
and value chain down to at the end product, not
Indeed,
just
yeah.
anything raw.
Yeah.
You're focused on agriculture.
Yeah.
What are the other opportunities out here that the youth can take advantage of and invest in?
And I think one of the things, just coming back to his example, is that let's not think big. Let's start small. I have seen a young person just sell, avocado oil. And he's able to actually send it out through there.
Indeed.
Because you can put it on Facebook, you can put it on the social media platforms, and because we are globally connected today, you can be able to sell even 10 bottles a day. And that is how we'll create manufacturing, by doing what we do best, creating unique products that are actually needed, organic. Go small and then build step by step. We are not going to build the next Bidco in the next few months.
Indeed.
It has taken time. You must invest your time, your knowledge, your capability down there.
Taking time. Now, let us look at the impact on leveraging on ICT. You've mentioned that this is a platform that the youth can actually leverage on and bank on to get self-independent, or rather, financially independent.
Yes.
So how do we go about it? I'm imagining someone is out there. We had the government roll out the Ajira program,
Yes.
targeting a certain number of youth across board.
Yes.
Is this the direction to take? And if this is a direction to take, how else do we optimize on such a program to empower the youth?
I believe the Ajira, the ICT direction is the best that Kenya has ever taken. In fact, in an information age where what people need is knowledge and information to be able to help themselves. Like Madame has just talked about here, the avocado. The pressing of the avocado produces the oil. So you can just go on Google. This is a digital age. You go on Google, you type, how do I make avocado oil? There you'll get 1 million, 20 million types of ideas on how to do it, from the most basic to the most complicated, where you have an industry. So the ICT sector in Kenya is going to help in creating self-employment, self-dependency, and youth are going to be able. And this is how, you see, you're talking about the, leaning down, face down.
Face down.
The face down now is going to work through ICT. Because you see, in our days of our parents, ilikuwa chukua jembe ndo ukalime. But now our jembe is in our brain and in our fingertips. Like now you pay with M-Pesa on your fingertips. You pay online on your fingertips. Right now we're being told to register for huduma so that everything can be online, digital.
Touchable button.
We appreciate what the government, the direction, that is the best direction the government of Uhuru Kenyatta has ever taken, because that will bring the revolution and will create employment and more opportunities for young people.
So ICT is a way to go.
Yes.
But now, in as much as we've talked about where the opportunities are, agriculture, ICT, there's the issue of balancing societal pressure. You are unemployed, you have bills to pay. Then there's the issue that has come up, and it has been termed as a vice, the issue of gaming and betting. Yeah? Let's talk about that in as far as the youth is concerned, from a youth mentorship point of view. What is your take on gambling? Because that amounts to gambling and the youth.
I think this is total taking advantage of the millennial get rich quick programs, where you're saying, an ideal example is somebody who has won over 100 million shillings, and you entice everybody else. But when you look at the returns for the companies that are doing betting, again, it's where the money is coming from. I am almost forced to call it the immoral kind of, it's an extortion kind of thing. But everybody is benefiting. And you see, why our society is the way it is today is because we are only looking at what is it in it for me. When at my age I invest in the betting company, I'm only looking at what it is in it for me. But really, what is a real legacy? It is to ensure that the next generation actually take over from where you've left and actually find a better world for you. So this thing of always amassing wealth, too much wealth, like you live here forever, is something we need, particularly in my generation and above, to stop.
Edward, what's your take?
Betting.
You see, it has been said that this is inokolea, if I may use that word, inokolea sana.
Okay.
You put in 100
What
bob, you get 1,000 at the end of the day. So yeah.
Inokolea, that's what many young people say. And they are able to bet. I don't even know how to bet, to be quite honest.
Even during the World Cup, you
I
didn't bet?
don't bet. My principle is that I don't bet, because that's how my Christianity has brought me up, because it's still gambling. It's wrong. And in the end of the day, it will eat you up and you'll become an addict. I'm a psychologist, and I know what the young people are going through now is not even betting, it's addiction. They are trapped in this addiction. Like every time they need to bet, they're not thinking about what they need to eat, where their children are. But going back to the betting companies, what we need to do as a society is the money that is collected from this betting through tax should not be combined with other tax. It should be specifically used to rehabilitate, right, these young people. And I'll tell you another reason why youth normally say they're betting is because they're unemployed. But out there you can hustle for 50 bob. You can hustle for 100 bob, right? You can borrow from Mshwari and then you bet. Hopefully you win and then you pay. And in fact, Matiang'i the other day said that majority of Mshwari loans that young people took were because of betting. And that 80% of people betting are young people. And further to that is that the only amount of money that is remitted, and these guys make billions and billions.
So should we do away with the gaming and
I think that we need to hold responsible, like Madam has said. If we value this country, we need to hold responsible SportsPesa, betting, and all other companies that are doing this, because now it's heading to a level of exploitation. And I like the way Uganda has gone. I like the way Rwanda is going, and other countries in Africa. Because you see, with the Western world, they're also selling us our culture. They're selling us their culture. When we're supporting football teams that are in Europe, that are in Western countries, the people who make TV rates, reviews, and money are the Westerners. We are losing. In fact, even if you look in between the lines, the people who own these betting companies are not African, are not Kenyans. The Kenyans only own a little percent. So therefore, this should be a warning, and we're warning you as young people. We're going to come for those betting companies.
Edward has said it. Pauline, what do you think? Is this the high time to do away with this issue of gaming and betting?
I wouldn't say do away with it, but what I would really say is that we need to regulate. We need to educate the young children and the young people what it takes to bet. That you are actually borrowing from one to go and bet so that you increase your chance. That riches are not made that fast. We need to settle these young people to understand hard work does. Instead of getting that 50 bob from betting, why don't you use that 100 bob and try and increase your wealth by buying something and selling it to another?
Thinking, actually what you've said is that doing away with the instant, get rich instant mentality.
Absolutely.
That the youth are grappling with.
Absolutely.
Now another issue that the youth are grappling with is the issue of communication, anger management. If we look at the cases that we have seen, we had Naomi, we had Ivy, we had Monica, all these fall into the demographic 18 to 35. Pressures that, societal pressures that are making them take their own lives or take another person's life. Edward, talk to that.
I think it goes back to personal responsibility. If an individual hacks another person, they need to go to jail. There is no issue about that. It's right or wrong, or the guy was a sponsor, or the guy used to give money. He made that choice to give the lady money. The lady never forced the man. So the guy has no right in the world. Kenyanjui, Kenothia, his name.
Okay, we will not name names because that's a matter that is already in court.
I made a mistake, so it doesn't go anywhere. But that guy has no right to kill that lady.
No one has the right to
Nobody has a right to assault, insult, and all that kind of stuff. But what we are saying is that we need mental health care in Kenya. We need
for you it's a mental issue.
Let me tell you something. It's a mental issue because you're not looking at it as depression. You see, this young guy, he's desperate. He doesn't have anybody to advise him because he's not getting mental counseling. He knows his girlfriend is cheating on him. He doesn't go seeking out for help, right? He's keeping these things inside of him, venting. And then eventually, it explodes.
Pauline, what do you have to say to that?
Because they can't deal with depression.
He says that the issue is a mental issue. Yeah. We're not talking. Yeah. We do not have mentors. We bottled it up inside, and that's why it ends up to where it is we've seen in the last few cases. What do you think?
Just looking back, like when I grew up, we grew up in a society where you are collective responsibility of everybody. Yes. Even though you had the mental disorders and any other diseases that now we have come to identify, you know, somebody was there to listen to you. In the evening, we gathered, we had dinner together. To be honest, I've been a career woman, traveling, leaving my child alone. You get, and these are the problems that now are coming back to face us because we are too busy chasing after career, chasing after wealth, chasing after so many other dreams that we aspire to have because of peer pressure of sorts. Then we leave the most valuable part of the family, the young ones who are upcoming, to no means to be able to communicate with anybody. And I always say that my first shock, apart even from the mental breakdown that is happening, was where I was interviewing students from a university, a public university, and they could not even express themselves for an interview. What does that tell you? This is somebody who has grown up. They do not talk to anybody. They do not even have somebody to ask, how can I go and do an interview? What am I supposed to do? What will they ask me?
Interpersonal and interpersonal communication.
Yes.
Lacking among them.
Absolutely.
But here we are. Here we are. This is not something that we can, it's not instant coffee that we're going to deal with it. So how do we help our youth better communicate? Because if you cannot communicate, then how will you pitch yourself to a potential employer? And even when you're going to ask for that line of credit, how will you pitch your idea? So we need to be able to enlighten our youth to package themselves, to talk about their issues. Edward, from where you sit, you are in an association where entrepreneurs have come together. How do you work at it? How does a potential youth or entrepreneur watching us this morning, what would you tell them in as far as bankable ideas and presentation is concerned?
Okay. before I talk about the individual youth, I want to give a message to the government. The same way they spend money, like now with the huduma number, the same way they spend money creating awareness, they need to now start camps, like youth camps, right? In every ward, whereby we have mentors, people of interest, right, who can go there, talk to these youth on those issues that they are facing, so that the youth can learn and say, hey, kumbe, this is normal. Oh, so a lady rejecting me is normal. I mean, I don't have to, you know, get worked up and hack someone's head off or something like that, right? So the government needs to do something with the psychosocial issues facing the youth. And I believe by holding camps all over, focusing on the psychosocial and personal growth of youth, then they'll be able to cover that gap, I believe. Because if we do it in a micro way, if we do it just through your organization, I mean, we'll not be able to reach the mass. And yet again, for Kenya to move, we have to move together. And
just to sample, just to inline what you're saying, someone is saying there on Twitter, since I think they're watching and they're saying, Pauline Warui, there must be, yes, I agree that there must be a mentorship program for the youth. How about the NYS being compulsory once again? Pauline, would this be a solution? Especially now we're talking that we have half-baked graduates per se, and we need to have skills. Making it compulsory, will it work?
I think in this day and age, making anything compulsory is not the way to go. For me, the National Youth Service has good intentions, has very good programs, but we have proved ourselves time and time again, we cannot manage that program. Unfortunately, that is it. How can we go about it? For me, how I would look at it is, let us look at the education system itself, where we are talking about how do we move to the TVET, but we actually move to these TVET, but we give people skills that are required at the end of the pipe. Don't just create TVET, then you just go for mechanics, while this country needs plumbers. And when you say plumbers, can we produce for the market that we give what is required? Can we also ensure that by the time you leave school, you have done things like self-financial management? Because I'll tell you my own case, even though I went to that NYS, well, I didn't stay for long, but I'll say I went for it. But by the time I left the University of Nairobi, my first employment I got because I had done typing during my school holidays. That is why I got a job. Otherwise, I would have my friends tarmacked for 3 years. But because I had these typing skills, I actually inherited my first job from my younger sister now who had done it for 4. So what are we saying? Compulsory is not necessarily the solution, but look for where your talents are and try and create within that. Can you write? It takes very short to go open a WordPress account and you write your stories and you sell your stories. And it's really about believing in yourself. What can come up from within me? Are you a good barber? Just because you are a graduate doesn't mean you can't open your own kinyozi and become the best there is in this
Changing
country.
the mindset that it's not just the white-collar jobs, that we can also be hands-on and rely on ourselves. But now, with the youth, this demographic that you've seen here has already been termed as persons who are not patient. They're not patient. They do not want to especially invest in their time. How are we changing that? How do we go about change that, Edward?
I think rather than pointing a finger at them and saying they're not patient, I don't think that's the right way to go. We need to help them find the solutions. We need to help them find themselves. We need to be empathetic with them. We don't need to bang them down and say, because you see, when you corner somebody, what do? They kind of react. And the reaction, you don't know how they're going to react. And that's what I'm saying, and I even picked this up and I've really now seen it. When we have these camps, we'll bring employers, we'll bring counselors, we'll bring psychologists, we'll bring manufacturers, we'll bring ICT gurus, we'll bring all these people, so that the talent that you said someone has, he can then see the opportunity for himself and begin to practice it. Because if we don't do that for the young people, they'll continue to be a burden. And remember, they will not be young. Youth is transitional.
Yes.
So you'll have old people who are useless in society, who do not know themselves.
Then
so therefore, it's important at this stage, and I always emphasize, even when I've met the president, I've told him, 18 to 35 is transitional. If this guy does not acquire knowledge, wisdom, talent by that age, then I don't know where he's going to go.
Pauline, now we have, hundreds of thousands of graduates are out here tarmacking. I'd want you to just give us basics. You've said that there's need to have other skills, focusing on talent. If you were to advise a young person who has a university degree, they did very well in their theory, they're just tarmacking, how would I better prepare myself for that interview? What should I know? What are the do's and don'ts getting into an interview section?
Let me just take you back now to the white collar aspect, the way I look at it, because we have the blue collar aspect and then we have the white collar. Number one is that a degree does not guarantee you employment. We need to change that mindset. A degree enables you to change the way you think, the perspectives. You go to the University of Nairobi like I did, and I read about Karl Marx. That was not going to transition to any job. You must know what you want, number one. And to understand, you're not going to get a job. This is where we are. Take account of that. How then do you transition yourself to become the most suitable candidate? Number one, you must practice your communication skills. You must know what you want. Do I want to do marketing? What do I want? Or am I just taking this position because my uncle is working in this institution and I know because of nepotism I'm going to be there? So how do you believe in yourself to be there? I'll give you an example. I'm an expert in call centers. And I think I've approached enough people, and I believe I can create 10,000 jobs for the youth if you were to pull the call centers that are in Philippines, that are in India, and actually put them back here. Because we have good Wi-Fi, we have good infrastructures, we have people who speak well, educated. So white collar is not a sin. It is not something that we should continue fighting against the TVETs. Yes, we need to provision for these other careers. But really, here we are stuck with youth who want white-collar job and who are not going to change their mindset in a day.
And besides, they have been through the system. They do not know any other way.
And we created it. Even our parents created that. Those were the strategies they created. So how do we deal with this? Number one, the private sector can come in and actually come in a big way, because we can't just look at the government every day. How is the private sector helping so that we can actually absorb these youths to be able to have these careers? Do we import labor? Are we only creating people who can work in Kenya? Can they go and work out there? But what do? We want to send house girls out there. We want to send other people without basic skills. Why aren't we sending our IT experts who are winning awards to create the best apps in the world, and then they can bring that revenue back home? Because other people are coming to do it here. Why aren't we the ones also going out
Taking
there?
out our talent.
Facilitate. And it also means the private sector needs to do. I have said we can create 10,000 jobs from the call centers only.
That is just 10,000 jobs.
Yes.
So it's a high time that everyone pulled their weight.
Yes. How many people are sitting with ideas? But because I know if I go, even I have no access to any government office where I can actually go and pitch my idea to mentor these youth and say, I can be able to do this. And that is the challenge where government has come up with big four agendas. We see where we fit in, but we have no access.
Lack of access and the need to facilitate the youth. That's what I'm hearing
Absolutely.
from you, madam. Now, as we come to a close, Edward, we just 1, 2, 3, you're already in the entrepreneurship business and you appeal to the youth. What would you tell someone who's already gone out, they have their degree, but they're still thinking, I'm still looking for that job?
All right. I want to add on to what she said, but I also want to add something to her as well.
Okay, as you close,
The degree is actually a skill, right? A lawyer is a trained person. He gets that degree, right? So what the youth need to do with those degrees is apply the skill. Start a business, start a consultancy, you know? Start something with your degree and start to practice what you've been taught. Because you see, the mentality of you looking for a job, which will never come. I would never tarmac for 7 years. I'm not crazy. But somebody else will. So there's an issue there.
People
You're doing the
different.
same thing expecting different results. So youth need to be self-employed. And the other thing is this. I want to encourage youth to get into the Big Four agenda in this way. One, in housing. Unfortunately, not everybody will be able to have a business that can do construction. But I'm calling on youth to look at low-cost housing. And join into NCA, the lowest as they can. Start from there.
Okay.
Agribusiness, agriculture. Agriculture is the biggest opportunity we have in Kenya. It's actually the widest area where we have income from.
Yes.
The GDP comes from
yes.
that.
Yes.
So there's so many value addition, value processing, value this, value that. So if the youth get into that, they will go far.
Good.
But lastly,
okay.
I want to
lastly, as
urge,
you're closing,
this is my closing remarks. I want to urge the youth to register for the huduma number.
Okay.
Us as an organization believe in the huduma number.
Okay.
And we are going to help mobilize 3 million youth. Why? Because in the near future, if you want a loan from the Biashara Fund,
then you
don't
will
have
need
to
that
go with
particular
all your documents, right, to apply for a loan.
ICT, that's
right?
government and what they're doing.
And the last thing is that we are supporting His Excellency the President in the war on corruption, because we know what happened to Youth Fund. We lost millions. So we are saying, tuache siasa, let's support the President and the handshake, and that's it. The youth of Kenya have decided.
Very well said. That is Edward Githaiga, the CEO of Vision 2030 Youth, flanked by Madam Pauline Warui, who is a youth mentor and career coach. Now, as what our take home is that from Pauline there as a mentor and career coach is that first of all, you have to practice your communication skills so that you can better pitch either for that interview or that idea, and it needs to be bankable. Secondly, you need to know what it is that you want. So now that we come to a close on GMK, remember that as a youth, there are several opportunities across board. You just need to know what it is that you want and want it desperately enough to go the extra mile. I'm Regina Manyara Gitao. Do have yourself a pleasant day ahead.